Hello everybody, Adam here. So if you're watching this video, you probably saw my casual reaction video as well. If you didn't see my casual reaction video, or if you're not familiar with the song Bleak by Opeth, then you should go and check it out so that you can get a reference for what I'm about to talk about right now. Because I will not play the audio for this. This is just my take on the live engineering. Right, so Bleak at the Roundhouse Tapes. Excellently mixed. Excellently mixed. So I'm going to break this down into 4 categories. Number 1 is panning. How do you pan a live band like this when you're not there? You know, because we're watching it, but we're watching it on headphones, right? So how do we pan? Number 2, I want to talk about the kick drum and the bass. Number 3, I want to talk about Ackerfeld's vocals. Number 4, I want to talk about reverb. So, number 1, panning. So if you're not an audio engineer, you are still going to notice panning. So what panning is, if you don't know, is where your sound fits in your stereo image. So is it hard left? Is it hard right? Is it in the center? Is it like 50% left? Is it 50% right? So yeah, so that's what panning is. It's where you hear it. So for normal music, you generally have guitar hard left, guitar hard right, bass center, vocals center. Drum set is normally panned for drummer perspective. So that means like you're listening to how the drummer hears it. So, which is pretty much the same thing they did for this. I found it interesting though, that especially during the part near the end of the song, where it had the kind of like the clean break where Ackerfeld wasn't playing, he had his backup guitarist playing. So what I thought they were going to do was duplicate his guitar and put it in the left ear and right ear, and then when Ackerfeld came back in, I thought they were just going to bring his guitar and replace it in the right ear. So, but they didn't. They left that space empty, which I thought was really interesting. Normally you wouldn't do that. Normally you wouldn't have one instrument that's prominent in the left ear and then just have like nothing in its place in the right ear. So again, what I thought they were going to do was move his vocals from the center over to the right side and just leave the middle open. But they didn't do that either. They left his vocals dead center. It didn't distract me or anything, but I just thought that was an interesting way to handle that situation. Otherwise, the rest of the mix was pretty standard. Backup guitarist, left ear, Ackerfeld, right ear. The drummer had his panning pretty normally, and the bass was in the center. Yeah, a pretty normal pan. Number 2, this is important. This is always important, and I think I say it in every audio engineering video that I ever do. The bass and the kick drum did not overpower one another. And this is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. I was like especially worried about this because I knew about the double kick part at the end of the song. That's just like the straight, all the, I forget if it's 16th notes or 16th note triplets at the end of the song. I was really afraid that was just gonna muddy up everything. But it didn't. It was like really well done. So several different techniques you can use for this. In my last video, I discussed about making a different part or different spaces, like sonic spaces in your mix, so that different things can fill in those spaces. So what you can do is at around like 300 to 350 hertz, or you can go as high as 400 if you want to. You dip out that part in the kick drum, then you also scoop out a lot of the kick drum end as well, because you don't want the boom of the bass, you want the thud of the bass. The thud is what metal music is known for, and you need that for syncopation. The audio engineer did that, of course. He made sure that the bass had its own pocket right down there on the lows and the low mids. It was perfect. It sounded great. There are even parts of the song where I can tell he moved up the fader a little bit on our bassy boy, which is great. That's awesome. You need to have dynamic live mixes. Like when I did the live engineering work, I found that I was rarely keeping the fader in one place ever, besides if it was the drums. I kept the drums pretty standard and then kind of mixed around the drum set. But we had a similar situation with that here. Like, this is so important. This is so important. Your live mix engineer needs to know your music. They need to know where a solo is. They need to know where the bass comes in. They need to know the dynamics of your song. That's why the bass could be heard so well. You know, when the bass needed to be brought up, you know, for its cool like melodic like arpeggios and runs. It was there. It was prominent. Opeth fans want that. Opeth is known for their bass lines. So it's incredibly important that you do that. Because if you have a live mix engineer who doesn't know about that and it gets muddied out, the audience is not going to be happy because they can't hear it. And just in general, like the kick drum and bass drum, they didn't overpower anything else. The kick and snare sounded really good with the vocals as well. They all had a fairly similar volume, which is really good. So speaking of vocals, let's just head right on to the vocals. The vocals sounded superb. That's not surprising, given the fact that Acrofelt does so well in his live performances anyway. Every time I have seen him, he has been perfect. So I have a, like, I know there's some bad videos of him, just like there's bad videos of other vocalists, but he did an amazing job performing this. This was filmed in 2006, so we definitely had some Melodyne. We definitely had auto-tune. I didn't hear any of that, which was good. They kept it like true to form, I believe. His vocals were really well mixed. They sat right on top of the mix, exactly where they're supposed to be. They were EQ'd properly. Maybe in post-production they did some like gentle compression on it, because that's generally what you do on vocals. Anyway, just really good job on the performance side, the vocals, and the audio engineering side. Okay, my last comment is about the reverb of the room. So that room has a lot of people in it. My guess is that's probably a 2,000 to 4,000 person venue, and it looked pretty packed. So something that if you're mixing a live show in a venue that big, you need to consider your reverb and how your sound is going to bounce off the walls. And then you also have to consider that when you're doing your mic testing at the beginning of sets before everyone comes in, that your room really changes when you have 1,000 plus people there. I know from my experience, we would do our live sound check with only like 5 people in the room, and then there would be about 1,000 people that would show up, and it really did change how the room sounded. So you needed to adjust for that. But I was surprised though. Like, the vocals seemed raw, or like pretty raw to me. Like, there was definitely reverb there, and you could hear it, but it wasn't like in some of the Dream Theater videos where they are like trying to make it feel like you're there. Like, I felt like this was more mixed, maybe to be a bit more true to form to the album, instead of it being like a true to form live performance. Which I find interesting. If I were mixing this I would definitely want to keep like as many of the live elements as possible, because like that's why the people buy this DVD, right? You know, they want to hear the band playing the music from the album. If you want to listen to the album, you know, you can just go back and listen to the CD, right? So I found the reverb interesting in that way. There was a lot less of it than I thought. The performance still looked live. It still sounded live. The reason why I say that it sounded live is because it didn't sound like they did anything in post-production to save any timing or anything like that. Overall, good performance. Overall, good mix. The master was really good. Mastering an Opeth song would be quite difficult because it has so many changes. Their music has so many moving parts, right? So what you have to consider with mastering this is the fact that they do have these like death metal, heavy, in your face, like screaming parts, you know, or like that's where some of the Opeth sound is. Generally, if you have a whole song of that, you would really, really compress it, make it high volume, and have it punch you right in the face. But Opeth is not like that, as you well know if you're an Opeth fan. They have like breakdowns. They have parts that go from extreme heaviness to just like acoustic guitars. Or in this case, they broke it all down to like one guitar and a vocal in this song. So when you're mastering this, you have to be so careful about how you bring up the small spaces in the volume level, because you don't want to change the dynamics of the song too much, and you also don't want to overly compress either, because that would make these parts that are meant to be quieter, moodier, they're not going to be as moody, and they're definitely not going to be as quiet if you're going for volume. So it's a delicate mix, all of this. So no pun intended. Yeah, that's my take on this. Thank you guys for watching. Opeth is truly one of my favorite progressive metal bands, and I should really listen to some of their newer stuff. I definitely think like Ackerfeld is one of the most amazing songwriters in the progressive community. So I need to get on top of that. I needed to get on top of that, you know? And just listening to the song reminded me about how good of a songwriter he is. Just incredible work, as always. One. If you're liking my content, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe button. Leave me a comment below about how you thought this song sounded. Let me know if there's any other songs that you would like for me to do. Metal or not metal, I'm game for pretty much anything. And if you are so interested, my Patreon page is in the description below. It is the very first link. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye everybody.